Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Heaven Bound Baptist Church, our Wednesday night fellowship meal. If you're joining us on Facebook, if you'll give us a thumbs up or a hello just to let us know that you're there. We have a special treat for you this evening, and we invite you to come join us in person for our fellowship meal and for a Bible study. Tonight we have Kevin Parrott, who's going to talk to us about his biblical walks through Egypt and Jordan. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin now. Thank you. Yes.
Everybody doing okay tonight? Great. Just want to say thank you for listening to me tonight, and hopefully it'll be entertaining. I do take lots of pictures, so I'm going to show you some pictures up here of biblical spots that I went to while in Egypt and Israel. I'm sorry, Jordan. I'm going to Israel next year. But I was going to say that the reason I'm here tonight, if you go way back, 27 years, I've known Judy because we both worked for the mall management office together. In 1996, that's when she started working there, and I started working there the same year. So I've known Joe and Judy and Jay before that. So I can't even tell you how long it's been. So anyway, good to be here, and I'll get started right now. There we go. So just real quick about me. My dad and grandmother put the travel bug in me. My dad's mom, Gladys, she's passed away now, but she always told me, she said, you keep traveling right now while you can. She said, because when you get older, you may not be able to. And she was shocked because when I would bring this phone over and show her the pictures, she never understood how all those pictures were in here. But she always wanted to look at them. So that was pretty funny. So my dad, he used to take us to Florida a lot of times. We went to Smoky Mountains and things like that. So it just kind of put the travel bug in me. And if you look, in the 90s, late 90s, I traveled to Mexico and Canada, and I thought that was international back then. And then really, what kicked me into going around the world was going on a mission trip to Ecuador. And you can ask my mom, she was scared to death when I left. My mom said tonight. She was scared because there was no internet connectivity where I was going. There was no phone where I was going. So it was like, for a week straight, I had no communication with the outside world. So anyway, that right there is what really, made me think I could go other places besides just, Mexico and Canada. So to date, I've been to 62 countries and 38 states. And by the end of this year, I should be up to about 70. And I usually go to 5 to 10 countries a year and about 10 to 15 states. I think that's what I've got. And I'm also, for the college system, I'm our chair of our Global Studies program. So what I do when I go on these trips, I go back and do different community presentations like this one in different spots. All right, so real quick, Egypt, Jordan. Look at that. Egypt's mentioned over 500 times in the Bible, and Jordan about 200 times. And just to kind of get your bearings of where we're at, of course, this is the continent of Africa. That's Africa. Egypt right here on the top, right here. And it's a little bit different. If you look at Africa as a continent, there's 54 countries there. I've been to 8 of them now. But on top, it's all Arab countries, Middle Eastern type countries, with Muslims and Islam. So everywhere from Morocco, which I've been to Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt, those are all Arab peoples. Now, in the middle there, that's where the Sahara Desert is. From there down is what we typically think of as African American people. So that's what they're from. So here's just a location. There's Egypt here, there's Jordan, and there's Israel. All right. In Egypt, guess what? Even back in the days when they first went there, they actually did spread the word. And right now it's about 5% Christians. Back then it was more. Okay, it's now mostly Muslim. And right there it says in the beginning, even in Genesis, Egypt was mentioned. It says the descendants of Ham would occupy Egypt. So here's Ham. There's Shem and Jacob. So there's where all the people were separated, and he confused the languages, right? Remember that from the Bible? All right, so here's Egypt. So watch, you're going to see there's Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus. Watch, they'll start moving here in a minute. They're going to do that trek. They told them to get out of Israel and go over to Egypt. Well, they did, and they settled about right there. So there's some Bible verses that back that up. That was the flight into Egypt. It says, arise, take the young child and his mother, and flee to Egypt. And that's what they did. So it was really nice to be in the same spot that so many historical figures in the Bible are at. So Also, we've heard of the mummification, right? Did y'all know to this day they still don't know exactly how they did it? So they did it, and it was only for the kings and the queens. They didn't do normal people. So it was only for them. And these are some pictures in the Egyptian museums. And look, these bodies are over almost 3,000 years old, and they're still preserved. This is a lady. This is a king, a queen. And look, anybody ever seen a 3,000-year-old foot? And they even had a baby that had died during, when it was young, and they mummified it.
Did you say they still don't know how they did it?
Nope. They still don't, let's see. Right up here in the museum, they found the tools and they found the chemicals they used to mix, but they still don't know exactly how they did it because to last this long. One thing they said to help is because Egypt is really dry. I'll talk about that a little bit more, so nothing really could rot as we know it here. So that did help it preserve too. But here, what they did, this is King Tut, by the way. We got to see King Tut. That's his body, his mummy. And guess what they did? They left the heart inside because they said that was connected to the soul. But in that other box right here, they took out all the other organs like the heart, not the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the intestines, and they put them in those boxes and preserved them separately in there. And you always see the statues of Egyptians like this with the left foot out. They said that stomped out evil and protected the heart. So every one of the statues you'll see, the left foot stuck out. So that's what we got to find out there. What else? Let's see. There, of course, they have a mosque, right, like a church here. And there were mosques everywhere. And guess what this one was named, right here on the left? It's got a Kentucky connection. Y'all remember who Cassius Clay was?
Yeah.
What did he change his name to? That's the Muhammad Ali Mosque. So that's the Muhammad Ali Mosque, not based on his name, but based on Muhammad over there. And it's just almost like in Hispanic cultures, almost a lot of people are named Muhammad, or Islam, or follow Islam. So we went into these, and by the way, you can't go into the mosque. This is one thing that's a little bit different about Muslims versus Christians. What did you all do tonight? You welcome people in, right? Well, in mosques, you really can't go in. There's only certain mosques you can go in. This is one of them that we can go in since we're not Muslim. And when we did, we had to wear these shoe covers. See these shoe covers? Because they didn't want it to get dirty from the outside world. So there we are. That's my big group that went with me. And you'll see this sign. What does that say? Muslims only. Non-Muslims, you have to go a different way because non-Muslims in most mosques are not allowed. You have to be a Muslim first before you get in. And it's kind of odd that the Egyptians built the pyramids, right ones to say over there. Built for what? We just talked about eternity. And look, they're still there, but they really weren't for eternity, were they? Only out here on the earth. Now, the only thing those were used for was burial grounds for kings and queens. So I actually walked up into the big one, and let me tell you something, you all. I don't see how those people did it. They carried the coffins or the sarcophagi in there, right, full of stuff and people. And I walked up just with my own feet, and I was sore for 3 days afterwards. It goes straight up like this, and you have to go straight down like that to get in and out. And they buried them right in the middle, right there. So you can walk into it, but I suggest if you do it, only do it once because it will wear your legs out. Now, this is the pyramids of Giza. They're also known as the Great Pyramid. That's the big one. And there's only a few people buried inside of that. And if you look, most people think the pyramids are out in the middle of nowhere, right? Well, they used to be, but guess where they are now? That's Cairo, and this is Giza. So they're right there, right in the middle of the big city, just surrounded by all kinds of houses and buildings. Now, one thing did happen. We had a miracle that happened at the pyramid complex when I was there, and I'm not kidding. If you look here, it says it only rains 3 days out of 365 days a year in Giza or Cairo. That's only 3 out of 365. And they only get 0.031 of an inch of rain. So if you take that times 30, that's just 1 inch. We get 45 inches a year. So again, very, very dry. And it only happens about 3 days a year. Also, let's see, we saw, it actually rained on us. I was like, rain in Egypt? We were on the camels. I got wet. You'll see my shorts here in a minute. We were all wet when we got off. And I said something. I was like, hey, if that sun comes back out, we need to watch for a rainbow at the pyramids. And guess what we did? This is not fake. People said I should submit this. That is a picture that we all took right out there by the pyramids. And I thought that was a blessing because, number one, it doesn't rain there. And number two, even people that are local, so they never saw a rainbow there. And look how clear it is. There was actually, you could see every single color in it. I mean, the pictures don't do justice. In person, it was bright as like a neon light right behind us. So again, that was a miracle, we thought, because it doesn't really rain there. And you hear this? That's the call of prayer. 6 times a day. 5 times a day, sorry. So, no, this is it. So this is their call to prayer. Like I said, it just randomly happens. And that doesn't mean that everybody has to stop what they're doing that minute, but it just is a reminder, hey, go pray. And y'all know what they do before they pray? And I didn't know until I went. I went to Morocco one time and spent a week with some Muslims, and they taught me more about Islam in that 1 week than I've known about in all my life. They have to wash their feet and hands before they pray. And they have to pray on a rug. So what they did, I was following this guy, right? And he's like, no, you can't follow me. He goes, I have to wash up. And he didn't even know I was a Muslim. He didn't even ask. But he wouldn't let me go in there with him. So anyway, that's what they do. That's the call to prayer. Now, this is Cairo. Look how many people are there now. 20 million. Kentucky's just got under 5 million. So that's 4 times the number of people that Kentucky has in one city. And look how crowded, look at those streets. And I got a video to show you next. I couldn't believe how many people are there. And if you look right here, that's how crowded it is. And look, see this kid? That's the traffic. There was no seatbelt laws or anything. They just stand on top of the back of the truck. So look at the people. And it's packed like they did everywhere in Cairo. Right there. And you'll see as you go around the corner, look at those people as far as you can see. That's at night. That's at night. And look at the bus just going right through it. Isn't that crazy? It's something we don't experience here. And everybody just moved all around and did fine.
Did they carry their own little rug?
Yes, they do. And here's the traffic situation in Cairo. That's how it looks most of the time. That's what you do.
Now that looks familiar.
It does, right? But anyway, I just want to show you how crowded it is there. All right, so here's a few Bible verses. What do you think? What happened to Egypt? They went from the biggest civilization, most advanced civilization on earth, to actually, since 2012, they had to overthrow the government. We weren't even allowed to go back until about last year. And right now, it's still at level 3, which means level 4 means you do not travel like North Korea. But they're still at a level 3, which means reconsider travel. So they're still really not too safe. I was going to put the picture up in here, but I didn't. But we had an armed security guard with us on the bus, and he had a semi-automatic weapon with him, and he kept us safe. So that's what, provided protection for us. But why do you think Egypt fell? Why do they have these great pyramids? And why do you think, what happened to their civilization? Well, they didn't follow the Bible. If you look at that, what do they do? They worship false gods, right? If you look at some of the other slides, it said all their gods were small g, not big G like ours, because they worship many gods. They worship the sun, they worship the rain, they worship the moon. So they worshipped all these gods. And here are some of the Bible verses about that. And see right there under Isaiah 11:15, it says, the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the sea of Egypt, and he will wave his hand over the river with his scorching wind. That's why it's still hot to this day. And he will strike it into 7 streams and make men walk over dry sand. Okay? So that's why they did it, because, they failed because they weren't following God. So, that was Egypt. So now we're going to Jordan. And remember, over 200 times Jordan's been mentioned in the Bible. So there it is, and it's right next to Israel. And anybody want to guess what separates Israel and Jordan? 2 things.
A wall.
Well, it's the Jordan River. That's where Jesus was baptized. What else? You got the Jordan River, and it flows into the Dead Sea. The lowest spot on earth, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But Jordan, again, it's in the New Testament a lot, and it talks about John's baptism, right, of Jesus. Okay? And again, like I showed you before with Egypt, Christians make up about 4.5–5% of all the people in Jordan. And of course, we know what happened at Jordan River, right? A lot of people, even though they've been baptized, will go back here and do it again at the spot that Jesus was baptized at. So there it is. That's the story of Jesus getting baptized in the Jordan River. Now, also, this is the part that once they told me this, and I knew that there was biblical significance to these areas, but once I knew where we were at, and they showed us back up in the Bible, look at this. We walked the same path that Moses did when he led the Israelites out of Israel into Egypt. The very same path, and that just put a weird feeling inside of me. It's like, what? I'm at this spot right now. So if you look, here's Israel. They went over here. This is the Red Sea. There's Egypt. And then when they came back, that's where the Red Sea was parted, right here. They went down and over. And if you look, why do you think the Israelites did not take the easy route? This would have been shorter. They went down here. They went down that way because that was a safer way so nobody could find them. So they were truly out in the desert with very little water and very little food. Right here.
So
And go ahead.
what was the promised land in that picture?
Oh, let me go back. Yep. So this is Egypt, this is Jordan, and this is Saudi Arabia. Right here, Israel. And before Moses died, he saw it, but he didn't get to go to it. So right here, it's going to be right here in this one. Israel's right here. There's the Dead Sea. Here's Jordan. So Egypt, Israel, Jordan.
How long?
Yep.
How many? You said you walked it.
Yes.
How long was it? Was it how many miles? Or
Now they walked for what, 40 years? We only walked for 2 days, so, but it was a long time. And I want to show you a picture of that here in a minute. Of exactly where that path was, yep. So here it is, and we went to this thing called Wadi Musa. Wadi is water, and Musa is Moses. That's their word for Moses. Well, guess what he did there? That's where the staff, he hit the ground, the rock, and water came out of it. Well, guess what? This is a desert area, and to this day, that spring is still flowing. So right there, Wadi Musa, if you hear that, that's part of the desert there. It's Moses' valley.
all right.
And look, can you believe this? Look at this. This is how beautiful it was at sunset. And that was right where Moses struck that staff where that water came out of it. Look at that. And we got to see the sunset like that every night there. All right, anybody heard of Petra? Now here's where that walk's going.
Okay.
So if you look, this is part of the real route that we went. This is the mountains. Here's the route that Moses led the Israelites out of. And we actually went through there too. Here it is. See, it's a cavern. It actually keeps going deeper. Okay, it's a cavern which water washed out a long time ago. So there it is. They dressed me up like a local. And here's the border. And we also went at night. And I'm sure that they had to also walk at night, which is probably scary, right? We at least had some lights on the ground. They had nothing. They just had the starlight or the moon. So we went through there, and that's Petra by night. And by the way, I think I said that earlier. Petra means rock in Greek, and also rock, I think, in Arabic. All right, so here it is. Have y'all seen this? That's me on a camel. And they built that into that mountain. They just carved it out, and that was a building. They used it for a bank and other people to live. There's also some people buried in that area. These are some of the local, they call Bedouins right here. They were really nice. They had it, the camel wanted to give me a kiss, see it? This is a Bedouin, 2 Bedouin kids that helped me out on the camels. They were really nice. And this is Petra. This is that building that they built in there. And by the way, Moses and the Israelites walked right past this. And they actually stayed there. There's a lot of areas there where they could camp, and that's what they did. And there's also some water sources in the bottom, but you have to walk a long time to get to it. All right, heard of the Dead Sea? Anybody know why it's called the Dead Sea? Nothing can live in it, right? And the funny thing is, it's fed by the Jordan River, which there's plenty of life in. But guess why it doesn't? Guess why it's so salty here? If you look, it's 10 times saltier than the ocean. And the reason is the Jordan River feeds into it. This is a really hot area. And during the daytime, a lot of it evaporates into the air. Well, guess what's left? The salt. And that used to be an old ocean, so there's chunks of salt everywhere. And you can't even sink in it. These are 2 people that were with me. You can't sink. So if you can't swim, don't worry, you can float everywhere out there. You can't even operate a boat in here because the boats can't maneuver. It's just too thick. That's a piece of the salt that was on the shore. And all that salt is broken up into that water. It's even saltier than the ocean. And by the way, the Dead Sea was mentioned many times, but here's one in Deuteronomy. It says, when Jordan is a border, it says the sea of, they called it the Salt Sea, also called the Dead Sea. If you see the Salt Sea in the Bible, that's the Dead Sea, because nothing lived in it. And they believe that the mud there has healing properties. If you look, see how they're covered up? Right there. And I'm not really eating that salt. The lady just got it at an angle where it looks like I am. See it right there? The Dead Sea salt. That's what it looks like from above. That's the people in it. And these are the people putting that mud all over their body. Now, we just had food here, right? I love to eat. You can back me up on that, right? I love to eat food. And look at this. Remember how we heard about the story of Jesus fed the 5,000? That was right there at the Sea of Galilee, up there in Israel, in Jordan, right on the border. And then he fed 4,000 just below that at another sea. And then the Dead Sea is below there. This is the Jordan River. It feeds all of them. And then it ends here in the Dead Sea. And if you look at the food that's still there today. Look at that. It's very colorful, very good. Of course, I like different kinds of foods, but we ate so much, but we also walked a lot, so it really didn't stick to us. But all this food was very delicious. And I kept thinking of those stories about the 5,000 and the 4,000 because they were feeding us so well there. And I kept thinking, it's like, where's all this food coming from? We're out in the middle of the desert. It kind of brought me back to those stories of like, how did Jesus feed them all? We don't know, right? It was a miracle. All right, and that's pretty much what I wanted to show you all real quick. Hopefully it was interesting. Does anybody have any questions about what I talked about up here? Okay. Any questions about the countries?
So if they only get 300s of an inch of rain,
Yeah.
where do they get their water? Where's their water coming from?
Nile River. The Nile River is the longest river in the world, and it starts there at the top of the Mediterranean Sea and it goes all the way down into Egypt. That's one of them. And then the Jordan River in Jordan. That's where they pull it out of.
In the United States, Death Valley just gets 0.25
Yeah.
inches a year.
Yep, and I've been there before. I'm going back in June, and that's the hottest spot on Earth, by the way. And you all, the hottest spot on Earth is the Death Valley, and that's in California. It's only 300 feet below sea level. Guess what the Dead Sea is? 1,400 feet below sea level. I don't see how come it's not hotter, but it was really hot the day we went. About 85, but that was back in March. So the Dead Sea is so low, a lot of the water evaporates, but it's still fed by the Jordan River coming in.
What is that food?
These are pickled beets, which I love beets, but they're like a real bright, like fluorescent color. And this is some chicken, this is some rice, some fruit, some peppers, and sausages. But some of their sausages are lamb, they're not pork.
Yeah, they wouldn't eat pork.
No, most of them don't. Yeah. I don't think I saw that once on the menu.
But that's not bread and fish.
No, but they always eat naan. See this? They do have bread. Now the only thing I didn't like was this soup. See that? It was very thick. I forgot the name of it, but when they poured it, it was almost like glue. It was a real sticky looking, and I ate it, and it just felt weird in my mouth. It's the only thing I didn't eat. I ate 2 bites of it and let it go. So, but you see how it looks right there? The way it's pouring out of that. Any other just general questions?
So on the modified,
Yep.
you said they had the ingredients. Were those ingredients, they found those when
Yep.
they opened it?
They sure did. They found it in their coffins with instructions. But they still have tried to mix what they had, and they still can't get it to what it used to be back then. You know, they don't know what quantities they did.
You said the Mormon of the Muslim wouldn't let you in their synagogues or churches.
Yeah.
And say, neither will the Mormons.
That's right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And there's a reason. There's a reason. Why don't you want the public coming in? That's a good question, right?
Yeah.
And has anybody ever seen where the pilgrimage happens in the Middle East in Mecca? You know how all the mosques point towards Mecca in Saudi Arabia? Well, that's supposed to be the center of the world, which if you look at it, it kind of is the center of the world, but I don't think biblically it is. But they all their mosques face that way, and that's the way they pray. Well, if you go to Mecca, they got that big cube that they have to do a pilgrimage there at least once in their life. But they go to Mecca and they go around, and they have to touch that block and get divine intervention from Muhammad or Allah. So when they go there, guess what it says? Non-Muslims can't have it. So I wanted to go there because guess what? I think the fourth tallest building in the world is right there by that circle. And I can't go because I'm not a Muslim. You can't go in that circle.
Yeah, just like out west.
Anybody else?
So you had an armed guard. Is
Yes.
that because you were a Christian, or because you were an American, or some other reason?
A little bit of both. Good question, Al. Yeah, a little bit of both. What it is, the Egyptian government's trying to get tour groups to come back. So any tour group that has, I think, 20 or more, we have 30, they put up armed guard with you for free. And it was funny because I'm always the one that's going out taking pictures everywhere. If you all see me on Facebook, you know I do that. I take pictures and post a lot. But even his name was, let me think. The Egyptian guy's name was, it's going to come, it begins to, anyway, a couple times I wandered off a little too far and he just tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, come on back. He's trying to protect me, make sure I stay safe. And I've got a picture, I didn't bring it with me, but he had that semi-automatic gun on his hip. And we didn't have any issues. And there was military police and army everywhere in Egypt to keep you safe. But they want people to come back. Because since the overthrow, they call it the Arab Spring in 2012, they haven't had a lot of tourism. But it's slowly starting to come back. And that's one reason they're giving those free guards is to make people feel more comfortable.
Was he a policeman or a or
He was like kind of like a CIA or Secret Service agent in the government, and you couldn't even tell that he had anything on. He just looked like some guy in a suit. And he was with us every time. And followed us every time we went outside somewhere. Just to keep safe.
Can you show the slides that show Shem, Ham, and Jacob?
Yeah. Let's see which one is that. Right here, yep, this one.
what is that?
Yeah.
This is when God broke up into the three regions or three peoples and messed up their languages so they couldn't understand each other.
Oh, yeah.
Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And this is the areas where they went to. So the Ham people went over here to Egypt. And Saudi Arabia had the Shems. And up here, Turkey, you have Iraq, Iran over there. They all were Japheth. Japheth.
And that's the root, probably all starts in this trip.
Yep.
Japhethites, they moved to Europe.
They sure did.
And Turkey, Asia Minor. It's kind of interesting that
Yep.
the people are essentially the same, but a little different.
Well, I know when I went to Morocco, he was telling me the difference between, the Muslim was telling me the difference between Sunnis and Shiites. The Sunnis, I think the Shiites are more extreme, and the Sunnis are more open. So they told me a little bit of differences about that. But for here, like you're saying, we came from the Japheths. Yeah, Japheth group.
Worldwide, more Christians than Muslims, about the same, or?
I need to check. I'm not sure. I know that the Muslims, I think Christianity has about a billion with a B, and I think Muslims are about a billion with a B. I'm not sure exactly on the numbers.
So where's his tomb? Were you close to his tomb?
Which one's
Jesus' tomb?
No,
No.
we didn't get there. But I have been to other ones that recreated it, but not to the actual spot. Good questions. Anybody else?
I just can't understand people, they go there and they walk this, walk,
Yep.
and they don't believe,
It's hard. It's hard
Yeah,
to
it's
think
hard.
through that, isn't it? Yeah. Yep. That's a
So
good
of the
point.
62 countries you've been to?
Yes.
Where did you have the most anxiety about unsafe conditions?
I went to the Kingdom of Bahrain, and that's where ladies have to really be covered up from top to bottom. And I felt a lot of pressure there. Like I couldn't It was just weird to describe. And I do remember, I'll tell you a quick story about that. When I was in the EMRA, one of the cab drivers, he asked me, he goes, did you eat your dates with your coffee? Because I love to eat dates and coffee in the morning. And then he said, did you eat 1, 3, 5, or 7? And I'm like, what does that mean? I was like, I don't remember. He goes, you should only eat 1, 3, 5, or 7. That's what Muhammad did. Peace be upon him. They always say peace be upon him when they say his name. So Muhammad did that, 1, 3, 5, or 7 dates. So now, even though I'm not Muslim, I always eat 1, 3, 5, or 7 dates just because that cab driver told me that. So just a little, I just picked that up. Y'all like dates? We're from the date palm tree. I love them. And they're everywhere over here.
Well, Kevin, I've done lost count. How many countries have you been in?
It's 62 now. And I didn't show it, but we also went to Iraq briefly. I couldn't say it too loud. I put up one post about it because Iraq's a level 4 country. We can't go into it, but we just went into the tip and came back out. But the people were nice. The people were nice when I went into Iraq.
And I know you just got back to Washington, D.C.
Yes.
That was a good experience.
Yeah, Washington, D.C. I just took those 2 honor students that won that trip. And believe me, all, I'm old enough to be their dad. I'm more than them now. They were like, Mr. Parrott, slow down. And they're only in their early to mid-20s. And then Monday I'll leave with a group of 30 going to Japan. Yeah, and they're a little bit different. They actually welcome, they have Shintoism and Buddhism there. They actually welcome people in. They don't say you can't come in. So they welcome people into their shrines and temples, and you can go experience that. Any other questions?
Have you ever been to the same place more than once?
Yes.
You're going to be, are you going back to Egypt?
I will. I'm going to go back to Egypt, and I've got a tour set up, I think, next fall for Israel. So I'm going to start getting people to go on that with me. If anybody's interested, let me know. Are you okay? I'll send some flyers, okay? It really will be a good one. And you get to go talk about historic spots, right? If we go to Israel, I mean, that's the key. You know that 3 religions around the world consider Jerusalem their headquarters? Isn't that strange? There's got to be something special about that. It's Christians, Muslims, and Jews. They all consider that. That's their headquarters. There's got to
Is
be.
it Jews?
Yep, that because of the Jewish influence there.
How do you keep the money from, a lot of them don't use euro dollar no more.
Most of them nowadays, they just do credit or debit, and it's actually safer. Like when I go to Europe, I don't even get euros anymore because everybody takes a card, and then nobody can steal my cash, so I just use card most of the time. And here, I don't think I got any local Egyptian currency because they all took credit. And that's just changed in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Used to, you have to get cash and bring with you and things like that. And I went to Cuba before, and I'm going back again this November. They make tourists use one currency and the locals use another. And guess what? You can't use a credit card in Cuba because of the trade embargo. So if I use my credit card, I will get in trouble by the U.S. government. So I have to use their local currency when I go there.
And I bet there's not any food that you've passed up in any country.
Well, like I said, I only passed up that soup, but I did taste it. I did taste it. And I think the grossest thing, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but when I was in the Philippines, I ate what they call balut. And it's a duck egg. They take it when it's partially formed, and then they put it in boiling water, and you're eating a partially formed duck baby. And I ate it because out of respect, but it was really fishy tasting. It was really weird.
No, thank you.
If I showed you pictures, I want to show pictures of that before we ate it. Y'all would eat. Good questions.
When you go to Israel, are you going to be the tour guide?
I will have somebody help me because I need somebody that speaks Hebrew. So somebody there will also help me out. Anybody else? Y'all have good questions, more than I expected. I like that.
I think it's incredible
Yep.
that you've gotten to experience all of that.
And you know what? Most of my trips are funded by other people. Because the Central Kentucky Community Foundation funds some of these, the CIA does it, the State Department does some of them. And so I get funding from all these different sources because they want me to talk to people about these other cultures around the world. And I've done it here, I've done it in Louisville, I've done it in different states, different countries. and I've talked about what I've done here, different experiences, because they say if we know more about other cultures, the State Department says that, we won't fight with them as much. And not that I agree 100% with what Muslims and Islam do, but I know, being there a couple times, I understand now what they mean, but when I hear things on the radio or see things on TV about why they're doing what they're doing. So it does help understand that.
Tell the CIA we have a group that wants to go to Israel.
Oh, I know. I want to try to put that money in.
We'll talk all about it when we get back.
Exactly, I agree. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, there's some of those places that I just do not agree with at all.
Yeah, and like I would never take females to the Kingdom of Bahrain, and I went to Qatar. It's that little thumb off Saudi Arabia, and it's the only country that begins with a Q, doesn't have a U after it. And I went there, and it was in the middle. It was okay. I could probably take people there, but it's still a little strict, especially on females. But then I went to Dubai in the UAE, and they were wide open, females or male. They were, you can do what you want, pretty much. And by the way, a lot of these big cities that I showed you, I think like Cairo has over 700 mosques. 700. And Dubai, UAE has over 500.
Well,
And what cities?
there's some of the women in here couldn't keep their mouth shut.
Did you
So
get to
you're
see the
talking to
streets
yourself,
up
right?
close?
Yes, I did. I didn't put the pictures in here, but I did get to see that. They didn't even unearth all of that until like less than 100 years ago. It was covered by sand. Only the head stuck out. He said, ask about the Sphinx.
Yeah.
It's the world's biggest monolith, and that means it was carved out of one stone. It was not put together, it was carved out of one big stone. And by the way, here's a fact. I didn't put it up here because if I put too much, I'd be talking all night. Egypt used to have the most obelisks. You know what those things are? The looks like a little column. It's got the pyramid on top. It's even on the back of our money. Well, guess what? Everybody that conquered Egypt over the years, they took them home as trophies. That's why more are in Rome, Italy today than there are in Cairo, Egypt. There's only 5 left standing in Cairo of the originals. And the rest are around the world, different places. Even New York City has one in Central Park. They stole it and put it up over there.
Where are they in England?
There's a lot in Rome. It went even at the Vatican. And that's weird because that's a Catholic area. It's a Catholic country. The Holy See, it's the smallest country in the world. It's the Vatican. But they have an obelisk right
I
there.
just need to know where I need to look.
Yeah. Are you going to go?
Yeah, I'm going in.
Yeah. Well, then look, it's right there at the Vatican. There's an obelisk. And you know it came from Egypt.
Have you collected anything from over there?
Yeah, I used to do the old money. And now, by the way, the Egyptian money law, it's so devalued, they don't even use their coins anymore. So they pretty much give their coins away because you can't even use them. The smallest bill they use is a 10 Egyptian dollars. And so their money's really devalued, which means it's cheap for us. Cheap there. And I didn't bring this, but I did go to Zimbabwe, Africa. Anybody ever heard of that country? It's in the middle. I went there of all years in COVID 2020 and barely got back before they shut everything down. I could have been stuck in Africa for about 3 months if I didn't get back. But I got back and they had their money was so devalued. I've got $1 trillion bill from there. $1 trillion bill. I've got $1 billion bills. I've got $1 million bills because the money kept going. The inflation kept going so bad. We think we got inflation bad. They had it about 10,000%. But their money, I should have brought some. It literally is, it's the biggest note ever produced in the world's history. 10 trillion. I've got a $10 billion and a $10 trillion bill from Zimbabwe. And they're so worthless, guess what they do? They sell them on the streets for souvenirs. And that's what I bought. But it is good to go to these countries. You know why? I appreciate America even more. Everybody wants to say about all the problems we have here, but guess what? We're still the best out of all the ones I've been to.
Amen.
Yeah.
We have freedom. We can express what we're doing tonight. And some of those countries, you can't do that. You have to be careful. Especially in China. I've been there, and I don't know if I'm going to go back because, did you know in China you can't use Facebook, Google, a lot of things because the Chinese government restricts what their people see. They don't want to say that, but they do. And I was there. We were at the Great Wall of China, and I checked in with my phone. Well, the tour guide, who was Chinese, his name was Simon Xiaoling, he said, "What are you doing? You have to turn it off." He goes, "You can't do that." was like, what do you mean? He goes, you can't be on Facebook. So I have a special device from the Chinese government, and this is how kind of scary it was. They had it waiting for me at the first hotel we checked into. And I had to sign an agreement that I couldn't post anything negative about the people or its government. And it was a little device, and that's how I connected to their Wi-Fi networks through their cell system. But I couldn't post anything negative. And I didn't. I mean, I'm not going to do that. I'm in trouble. So they were really strict there on what you could do. And so you don't hear that on the news even. And that's what I love about going to these places, because no matter how much I research these, when I go, it all just kind of comes together, and I'm like, I'll learn more here during this time than I did in all the research I've done. So you have to be there, yeah.
Where was the scariest place you went and why?
Scariest.
You were scared for your life.
Well, one time in Costa Rica, that's in Central America, and there was a person that had helped me and my buddy. My buddy actually went down there and he married a local. So we went down there as just a tour for both of us. We went, and he met a local lady. He went back and met a local lady, and now he lives there. He's in town right now, Thomas. So, but it scared me one time because these people had taken us around all day, and then at the very end of the night, they took us out to eat, and then they were going down this real steep hill after we went down after we got done eating, and something just kicked into my brain. It's like, I don't think I should go down that hill. So I turned back to my buddy Thomas and said, Thomas, I'm getting out of here. And I walked away. And they didn't chase us, so that was good. And another time I was scared in Morocco, this guy, what they do there, they tell you one price if you're a foreigner, and then they double or triple it once you're in a cab. So he told me it's going to be like $5. And then when I got in the car, he said, it's 20. He went and he locked the windows and the door and let me out. So I yelled at him, I was like, look, sir, if you don't let me out, I'm going to come over to the U.S. Embassy right now. I have the phone number. I was like, I'll call him. And then he let me out. So you got to be careful. Some places, yeah. It's not happening a lot. Based on all the places I've been, it's a miracle more like that hasn't happened. I think God watches over me. I know my mom always gets scared. She says, I don't care where you're going, I'm always scared. Anybody else? All right, I think I'll turn it back over. Isn't it amazing? Look at this, how small that is now. They used to be so thick, the laptops.
Let's see.